Hey guys, subscribe for daily content. And if you're shopping for gear, make sure you check out the description for the newest items at some of the very best online retailers. There's also links for some of the items that I personally recommend. Thanks!
What's going on YouTube? Metal Complex here, and nothing grinds my gears more than great knives that don't get the recognition they deserve. So without further ado, here are my picks for the top 10 most underrated EDC folding knives of 2024. Starting off here with number 10. Oh my gosh, guys. Listen, everything on this list is going to be awesome. I reviewed like 250 knives in 2024, and there are definitely knives that are incredible that just don't get the recognition they deserve. Just like the intro said, the Kaiser Momo is absolutely one of those. I am not particularly a fan of front flippers, but I gotta say, this is the coolest front flipper on the market, probably. This thing is enormous. It's like a folding utility kitchen knife or tactical kitchen knife, 154 cm, an absolutely beautiful aluminum bolster, two different colors of aluminum here. We have sort of the gray and then the black, but absolutely gorgeous. Honestly, it really makes a good EDC knife, very easy to disengage, super disengage, right? Really just a super awesome looking knife, just a fun knife to, kind of hold and fidget with, but also a fantastic knife to use. This guy comes in 154 cm, which is an absolutely wonderful steel, made by Kaiser, of course, for $109. 100% deserving of your pocket time. Moving on here to number 9, this is the Voskylo. And some of these you guys are going to say, wait a minute, that's a really popular knife. Even if it is popular, it should be substantially more popular, in my opinion. This has the proprietary locking system. If you saw my video, you saw how this operates. It is stupidly strong and operates via the pivot, which is really, really cool. It also has the opening hole, the rear flipper. It has the front flipper. Beautiful. They come in two different variations, aluminum and L-Max for $169, or if you don't want to pay that much, they come in aluminum and 154 cm for $129. Given the quality and the durability, the ease of manipulation, just the overall quality build, I am super impressed with that price tag. This is a spectacular knife, and those in the comments who own it will probably echo, just like anything else on this list. It's really, really great. Moving on here to number 8, we have the Senk Glide Strike. This knife really blew my mind that it wasn't talked about more. We don't have a lot of large budget knives. And when I say budget knife, I mean anything under $75. This guy comes in at $40. It is super easy to manipulate. If you have larger hands or you just like to carry larger knives, this thing has a beautiful open ergonomic profile, has a wonderful blade profile. It's just a really, really great large tool. I'm not talking XL cold steel size, but just larger. We have way too many small knives on the market. That's fine. Like if you like small knives, you have a bajillion choices. As far as large budget knives though, probably like 1/10 what we see out there. The Senk Glide Strike is a fantastic option and super underrated. Just really great for $40. Moving on here, we have to talk about the Ironfly YOLO. Yes, that name is on purpose. If you know the person behind this knife, you'll know how much he loves joking around. But the Ironfly YOLO is an absolutely amazing knife utilizing 14C28N. I think the Rockwell hardness in this guy is 60 to 61. This is a sub company of Konwoo, and if you're familiar with Konwoo, you know that they're going to get their heat treat right. This comes in at a totally non-accidental price tag of $69. But all the jokes aside, it is a fantastic overall EDC profile with a great choke up spot. Really tall blade and definitely a little wider in the pocket. But the carry profile is great, like where it attaches to your pocket. The deep carry sort of aspect of it is really, really great. It makes for a wonderful tool. I love the blade profile for doing shaping cuts or draw cuts. Just super easy to manipulate. Honestly, given the overall quality, the execution of this thing, if you're familiar again with Konwoo knives, then you know that this thing is going to be great. But those of you who own it already know that. Moving on here, we have to talk about the QSP Vault. This is a Lundquist design with, I think they call this the glide lock. It's essentially a crossbar lock. Well, it is a crossbar lock, but the way that it's actuated is just a better. The way that you actuate this thing is super comfortable given those little tabs with the jimps on them. It's also an incredibly good looking knife. Personally, I love the old Benchmade Barrage with the M390 blade that had the aluminum bolsters, and this is kind of a budget look-alike, but it's still doing its own thing. Again, utilizing 14C28N, super classic profile, very stylish. Comes in a little more expensive than some of the other budget knives on this list. This isn't a budget knife by my own definition, but $86. At first, I was like, why can't it be less? Why can't it be less? But then after carrying it and using it and enjoying it for a while, I realized this is a super nice knife. QSP is no slouch. Contoured, everything beautiful, tumbled, slightly reflective finish. This is just a really good looking knife that's also a great tool and will definitely last you a long time. Great ambidextrous locking system, all of that. Absolutely wonderful. Moving on here, we have got to talk about this one. Got to bring up Konwoo again. This is the Compact Chad. Now, everybody's going to say, you can't say underrated and put Konwoo on the list because everybody likes Konwoo. Well, not everybody, but a lot of people love Konwoo stuff, right? In the grand scheme of Konwoo knives, like Konwoo did nothing but drop fire for like at least 2 straight years, right? I feel like one of their best knives that's not being talked about is the Compact Chad. And the reason is because it's being overshadowed by so many other amazing designs. If Konwoo has any issues, the problem is they have too many absolutely killer designs. If you don't own a Konwoo, you're truly missing out. They do some of the best dollar for dollar production work on the planet. This guy in particular is PM60. They heat treat this stuff to 66 to 69 Rockwell. That is insane. On top of that, we have a true satin finish DLC blade. It's basically, well, not impossible to scratch, but it's very difficult to scratch. Looks awesome. You can get these in carbon fiber. You can get them in full titanium. You can get them DLC, non-DLC. I think they run right around $250, perhaps a little bit less if you're looking at a stonewashed version or a non-DLC version. But given their quality and their attention to detail, their attention to things like ergonomic comfort, ease of manipulation, as somebody who doesn't absolutely love the small to medium size range, it's not really a small knife. I mean, it's very, very comparable to something like the Para 3, which I actually love. This works so well for EDC, like the compact nature, everything. It's also a really, really good looking knife. I love those little, they almost look like kind of toilet flushers here, but this one in particular with the carbon fiber and the bronze accents just looks fantastic. This pocket clip that Konwoo does is superior. And by the way, I will note that versus the pocket clip I released on my own Excalibur. People were wondering, why didn't you do this clip? That clip will actually fit. But yeah, that's maybe something that I should consider in the future. But it does have that superior Konwoo clip, and it can be moved over for left-handed carry. It also has these super comfortable tabs that you can use to actuate the crossbar lock, which is fantastic. It's just a really, really good knife. I feel like a lot of people who end up on the Konwoo page get really distracted by the full-size Chad or the Pulsar, which are amazing knives, but don't sleep on the Compact Chad. It really is an absolutely fantastic knife, and definitely, no matter how you look at it, this is an underrated knife. Moving on here, we have to talk about the Savvi Star Flare, and I know you guys are going, what the heck? It's such a random thing to put on this list. There's something to be said for companies that are hitting the mark under $75 and still adding style, because something that we see way too much of. If you're me, if you have my job, all you see is the same thing over and over and over again under $75. Some variation of rectangle and some variation of drop point blade, G10, or we've got, micarta, and then you have stonewashed or set. That's like 95% of the market. And for people looking for something like that, that's great because you have a billion options. You have so many options. I love it when companies will do things a little bit weird. Savvi does a great job. Their Senk cut stuff, that kind of sticks with more the traditional kind of non-risky knife designs. But I like it when Savvi will take a risk and do something a little bit weird while still keeping a really good and basic utilitarian profile. The Star Flare kind of comes off as a little bit too flashy, a little bit too crazy, but it's actually super utilitarian. Like the blade shape, that Wharncliffe blade shape is awesome. I really like that big pivot collar around the pivots. I like the whole, the milling and the aluminum. It just looks cool, but it's not anything you have to work around when you're trying to use it as a tool. It also comes in under $75, a little bit higher. I think it's about 72. Nitro V, fantastic steel. Savvi does a great job of that. I think that's probably the steel they do the best with, honestly. So highly recommendable. Don't sleep on that one. I feel like tons of people are just kind of looking over it because it looks weird or kind of gimmicky. It's not. It's fantastic button lock, straightforward, utilitarian cutting tool. Moving on to something more expensive, but definitely something that is getting overlooked. This is one that I just recently reviewed, and I got to talk about this thing because all the pictures that are out there are not doing this thing justice. Maxace is a company that is known for being wacky and being weird and building things that are essentially against the grain for what we consider to be, you know, like convenient and utilitarian, right? I mean, if you look at like their Titanus, it has like a bajillion screws and it's huge, it's ridiculous, has proprietary hardware, has a pocket clip that's essentially non-functional, and they like to kind of mess around and make stuff like that. But people forget that Maxace can make a beautiful and super convenient, straightforward pocket knife. This is that, but also them kind of flexing what they can do with things like finishes. We have a beautiful hand rub, like high reflectivity hand rub satin finish Magna Cut blade. We have contoured titanium scales. In this case, we have that lava flow or that magma fat carbon. You have a few different options for the inlay, so you don't have to go with this. We have a zirconium pivot, absolutely beautiful, and we have the inlays on both sides. Everybody else that's doing this, every other high-end Chinese production company, because believe me, if this was made in the United States, you're looking at, you know, close to $500, if not more, right? Especially considering the contouring and the Magna Cut. So every other realistic competitor, which is going to be a Chinese high-end production company, is bringing stuff like this to the table for well over $300. That's not an exaggeration. I am right about that. That's 100% the case. I was shocked to see that this guy came in at $228. It's really, really nice. I mean, this is probably one of the most impressive premium knives out there when you consider all of the little elements, right? It's also beautifully comfortable. Not quite 8 inches. I want to say it's probably 7.5 to 7.75 inches. Yeah, about 7.75 inches, but you get 3.35 inches of blade and 3.35 inches of cutting edge. This is a super good looking knife and definitely one that people are kind of looking over because all of the listings on retail sites kind of make it look like this basic, boring knife that doesn't have any special elements, right? So yeah, definitely something that you guys should not be sleeping on. And then moving on here, I believe this is number 2. Yeah, we have something that, again, I know you guys are going to argue with me. I know. This knife should be on the top of everybody who's shopping in this territory. This should be on the top of your list. This is the Olone Goat V2. Now, I know you guys are going to say, that's not fair. The Olone Goat came out last year. This is the V2. They've got the upgrades. In this case, we have the beautifully textured, the darkened or the coated titanium. This guy's got the gold carbon fiber inlays. Beautiful pocket clip. The only thing that bothers me is that they didn't offer the ambidextrous clip mounting position, but I think they offered lefty versions. Could be wrong about that. We have an LMAX blade on the newest run. They do a great heat treat. This is a Riot built knife. This is what I wanted the bug out to be. The bug out is a really, really cool, you know, aesthetic. It is too thin, too lightweight, too flimsy feeling. But there's a lot of differences here. It's almost unfair to compare it with the bug out. This thing is much larger at about 8.25 inches, has much more durable feeling titanium scales. We have a crossbar lock, Riot's first crossbar lock, which they did a fantastic job with. And this guy runs on phosphor bronze washers. Now, a lot of people look at that and they moan and they say, oh my gosh, for that much money, it should be on bearings. And that's wrong. You can find bearings, washers, nylon washers, anywhere from $20 all the way up to $10,000. It just depends on the idea behind the design and what you're going to use it for. The benefit of washers is that it still remains to be very, very smooth and it'll continue to break in over time, but it does a much better job of keeping debris out of the pivot, which is really ideal if you're actually going to take it out and use it. For a lot of people, this looks like a knife that is too flashy and too premium to take out and use, but it is a spectacular tool. I own 3 of these, and I love to EDC this knife. Every time I take this out of my pocket, it just puts a huge smile on my face. I'm having trouble with my SHs today. It does put a huge smile on my face. It is such a straightforward tool-looking knife, but it has all of those little tiny features that we love to stop and look at and just sort of enjoy. There's a whole bunch of different versions of these, including bronze, the black one, you've got the Damasteel version, you have the ones with the blue sort of Arctic carbon fiber. At $279, I think that's the base price. Not only is this a super impressive price tag for a Riot, who is a company that makes some of the most premium and most precision production folding knives in the world. I forgot how I built that up, right? It's an incredible price, considering usually their low end is about $350. So $280, I think this version is $285. This is a hyper impressive knife for $285. I think they did a spectacular job with the V2, and it is highly recommendable. Pick these up while you have a chance, because after they're gone, you won't find them again until we're looking at V3s. I do have one US knife for this list. And as time progresses, it gets harder and harder to add U.S. knives to this list because the price of American manufacturing, especially when it is truly in-house and truly USA made, the price of this stuff is going through the roof. And it is across the board. It's no conspiracy. It just costs a lot of money to make something here in the United States. So my number one most underrated knife is also far and away the most expensive knife on this list, and I've got to talk about it. A lot of people talked about how amazing the Machine-Wise Sonora is, but again, I think that this deserves far more praise and far more attention because of exactly what they built here. This is a true in-house USA-made knife, meaning they created everything on this knife, save for maybe the bearings or something. That might not even be true. It might be everything. Everything was done entirely in-house. We have a Magna Cut blade, and yes, that bevel is widened at the end on purpose. They did this on purpose. This is an integral. Now, you might not care that it's an integral, but integrals factually cost substantially more money to make. So combine the elements here. Magna Cut 6364, expensive blade material, definitely expensive to get it to that hardness. And we have full USA in-house production, right? That's hyper expensive. Then on top of that, they made the thing an integral, not just an integral, a titanium and contoured integral. The machines required, I keep saying this, the machines required to contour titanium are so unbelievably expensive. So this is an expensive knife at $650. And believe me, I know not a lot of people are beating down doors to pay $650 for a knife. But there are basically no other companies out there, no other true in-house production USA companies that are making this knife exactly apples to apples for anywhere close to that price tag. We got a couple other integrals, American integrals out there that have some pretty impressive price tags, some a little bit lower, right? But not exactly this. There's some element missing here. So if not all of these elements are important to you, that's fine, but these elements do cost a lot of money. I cannot believe, and this company didn't come out of nowhere. They came out of nowhere for me, but they were making ballad songs well before this. So they knew what they were doing. This is a V1. I was really impressed with this. Their V2 is perfect. If you are in that territory, if you are shopping in that territory and you've been on the fence about the Sonora, don't be. If you get an opportunity to buy this knife, buy it. It is supreme. They did such a good job with it. It has miraculously smooth action. It is such a good looking knife. And most importantly, it really is a fantastic tool. It feels unbelievably solid considering how lightweight it is. Really, really enjoy this knife. I hope you guys enjoyed this list. I really do get excited about pointing out knives that I feel like a lot of people missed. Plenty of you have picked these knives up over the year and probably really enjoy them, but there are literally hundreds of thousands of people out there who have no idea that these amazing knives exist and how much they would enjoy them. So I hope you found something on this list that you can enjoy. I will link all of them down in the description so that you guys can check them out if you want to. Please make sure to follow me on Instagram at metal_complex. You can also follow me on TikTok at _metal_complex. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like. If you'd like to check out my other content, I do of course have lots of videos of knives that are either expensive or inexpensive that I do or don't like, so check those out. And if you enjoy all my content, go ahead and click on that Metal Complex logo right there and subscribe because there's definitely more coming. Thanks again for watching, everybody, and have a great day.